Hello and welcome back to Box of Shorts, where we take difficult ideas from GCSE Science and try and break them down and give you a little bit of practice. Today we are going to be looking at life, where and when life first originated and the difference it made to the atmosphere. So previously we have seen that over time the Earth's atmosphere started with water vapor in it, but over time that the amount of water vapor decreased. Could you please tell me why is it that the amount of water vapor in the atmosphere decreased over time? I'll give you a second to think about it. Okay, why did the amount of water in the atmosphere decrease over time? Say your answer to the screen on 3. 1, 2, 3. So I'm hoping that you said 3 things. I'm hoping you said that the Earth cooled, the water vapor condensed, and it formed oceans. So instead of having all of this water vapor up in the air, the water vapor kind of, actually we'll draw this a bit differently as well. We have the Earth is kind of bumps and cracks like this, and the water condensed as the Earth cooled and formed these oceans and rivers and lakes any place where it could. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to look at what else happened in that water. So let's kind of zoom in a little bit. No, we don't want to go there yet. Let's go here for a minute. Let's keep it there. Right, so let's zoom in. We've got, let's say we've got land like this, and it's going like that, and that fills up with the water, like so. Now, over time, and we're not 100% sure exactly how this happened, we think it was about 2.7 billion years ago. Over time, these little things come into existence, these little things called algae. Algae are like little organisms, little living things that only have one cell. Now, I don't know where you're up to in your biology, but if you do know, could you say for me, what is the name of an organism that only has one cell on 3? What is the name of an organism that only has one cell? 1, 2, 3. Unicellular. So they only have one cell, and they just like appear in the water. And scientists really aren't sure exactly how this happened. They've got a couple of ideas, but they're not certain at all. Why is it that they're not certain? And it's exactly the same answer that we've covered when we were looking at the formation of the Earth's early atmosphere. Why is it that scientists are uncertain about how and when life originally formed? Please say your answer on 3. Why are scientists uncertain? 1, 2, 3. I'm hoping, as before, you said because it was a long time ago and there's insufficient evidence. If that does not sound familiar to you at all, you need to go back to video 1 in this playlist, in this series on Earth's atmosphere, because that's content that we covered then. Now, you'll notice that I've drawn these algae as green, and algae exist up until today. And they look like that. And they float around on the top of water, and they are green, and they form nice big clumps. In some places there's more, some places there's less. And if we look at them under a microscope, we get something that looks a bit like this. And you can see familiar characteristics of cells. You can see they've got kind of a fixed determined shape. And really importantly, you can see that they're green. Would you like to suggest to me, why is it that they are green? Why are they green? And again, you will have to search your biology memory for this one. Why do you think these algae are green? Say your answer on 3. 1, 2, 3. I'm hoping you said it's because they've got chloroplasts inside them. So if we were to look at one of these cells, we would see that it contains chloroplasts. Now, if it contains chloroplasts, what process does it do? Say your answer on 3. If it contains chloroplasts, what process does it do? 1, 2, 3. I'm hoping that you said, whoa, every time. I'm hoping that you said the process that it does is photosynthesis. Now, photosynthesis is a process that nowadays plants and algae and anything with chloroplasts can conduct, can do. This might be a bit difficult, and again, searching the banks of your biology knowledge, what I'd like you to do is, in your book, I'd like you to write down the word equation for photosynthesis. See if you can write down the word equation for photosynthesis for me. If you need some time, pause the video. Okay, you should by now have attempted to write down the word equation for photosynthesis. And I'm going to write it up here. Algae. So actually, we'll write ocean over there. That is hideous. Ah! Okay, let's try again. That's the ocean, just to be really clear. So algae conduct there we go. Synthesis. The word equation for which is carbon dioxide plus oxygen, not plus oxygen, sorry, plus water forms oxygen plus glucose. Now we'll look more at this later on, but what you should already be able to see is that the carbon dioxide here is coming from the atmosphere, the water is coming from the ocean, but what they are doing is they are producing oxygen. So they are taking carbon dioxide in, like this, and they are producing oxygen out, like that. And what we'll look at in our next lesson in more detail is those two gases and how they changed over time. Now, algae weren't the only form of life that appeared. Over time, plants and trees stopped doing that. It's done it again. Drive me bananas. Plants and trees started to form, and they also did that photosynthesis process. And this is going to be incredibly important as time goes on and we look at the effect that this has on the composition of the atmosphere. So we'll change this to algae and plants conduct photosynthesis. And there we have it. Life originated 2.7 billion years ago, mostly algae. They conduct photosynthesis and the atmosphere starts to change. What I'd like you to do is, in your exercise book, take this whole lot down for me, please. Pause the video, do that, and then when you're ready, press play again and we'll do the questions. Okay, you should only be listening to my voice now if you have copied this whole thing down. This serves as your notes for this section. And here are your first set of questions. So pause the video and in your book, write the answers to these questions. Okay, you should only be listening to my voice now if you have done the questions. Again, as ever, if you're not bothering to do the questions, you are wasting your time. And there's really no point in you doing these videos at all. Where did life first originate, which means start or begin on Earth? And that, of course, is the oceans. Oh, I did a very bad job if you didn't get that one right. Why are scientists not certain of how, where, and when life originated? And again, we said in our last lesson, there are 2 bullet points that we need here. It was billions of years ago. And then you can say there's not enough evidence, or there is insufficient evidence. The earliest life forms conducted photosynthesis. Give a word equation for photosynthesis. I'm hoping that you got this right. If you just looked at your notes and just copy and pasted, then you probably didn't really achieve much. So what I'd like you to do is pause the video and say it out loud. Okay, so if you just copy and pasted from your notes, then you need to pause the video now, say it out loud without looking in your notes. If you could look up algae under a microscope, which organelles would you expect to see, and explain your answer? So you'd expect to see nucleus, and you might also expect to see things like mitochondria. But the most important one is chloroplasts. And you'd expect to see that because they can photosynthesize, or they can do photosynthesis. After algae came into being, how would the composition of the early atmosphere change? So we'll look at this in more detail in the next videos, but broadly, carbon dioxide would decrease, and oxygen would increase. Explain what happened to most of the water vapor in Earth's early atmosphere. It condensed and formed oceans. And finally, the Earth was formed 4.5 billion years ago. Why did life not come into being until 2.7 billion years ago? And I'm hoping this is a tricky question. I'm hoping you wrote something along the lines of, because liquid water had to form first. Nope. Now, if you wrote it was too hot, like, I guess it's an okay answer, but it's not just about the fact that it was too hot, it's what the effect of that was. So it was too hot, which meant that there was no liquid water and life couldn't form without that liquid water. Now, by the way, you might feel a bit like frustrated by the fact that I'm giving you questions which are a bit repetitive, but it's important to do these because in the exam, they tend to do these questions as just plain 6 markers. And all of the little bits, the nuggets that I'm teaching you now are what you put into your 6-mark answer in order to get all of those lovely, lovely marks for yourself. In our next lesson, we will look at carbon dioxide and how that changed over time and why that is important. And I look forward to seeing you then.